The air crackled with tension. A hush fell over the courtroom. Karen Reed, a seemingly ordinary woman, stood accused of an unthinkable crime, the murder of her boyfriend. The prosecution painted a picture of a calculated act, fueled by jealousy and rage. The defense countered with a narrative of a tragic accident, a nightmare spun out of control. The truth, however, remained elusive, shrouded in a fog of conflicting accounts and unanswered questions. This was a case that would hinge on the smallest details, the slightest inconsistencies. The jury, tasked with unraveling the truth, sat poised, their faces etched with the weight of their responsibility. Lives hung in the balance: Karen's future, her family's anguish, the victim's memory. This was a trial that promised to grip the nation, a courtroom drama where the line between justice and vengeance blurred. The victim, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, was found dead in the snow. The circumstances of his death, shrouded in mystery, sent shockwaves through the community. Was this a tragic accident or a cold-blooded murder? The prosecution presented a compelling case, alleging that Reed, consumed by jealousy and anger, had intentionally run over O'Keefe with her car. The defense, however, argued that the prosecution's case was built on speculation and circumstantial evidence, lacking any concrete proof of intent. The stage was set for a legal battle that would test the very foundations of justice. At the heart of the trial lay a fundamental question: could the prosecution prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Karen Reed was responsible for John O'Keefe's death? The answer, as the trial unfolded, was far from clear. The case, riddled with inconsistencies and conflicting testimonies, presented a complex puzzle for the jury to solve. The outcome, uncertain until the very end, would leave a lasting impact on all involved. The prosecution, led by a seasoned district attorney, methodically laid out their case. They presented a timeline of events, piecing together the hours leading up to O'Keefe's death. Witnesses were called to the stand, each offering their own piece of the puzzle. Phone records, text messages, and surveillance footage were presented as evidence, painting a picture of the events that fateful night. The prosecution argued that Karen Reed, after a night of drinking, had driven O'Keefe to a friend's house, where an argument ensued. They alleged that Reed, in a fit of rage, struck O'Keefe with her car, leaving him for dead in the snow. The prosecution's case hinged on several key pieces of evidence. First, they pointed to the damage on Reed's car, which they claimed was consistent with a collision. Second, they highlighted inconsistencies in Reed's account of the night's events, suggesting that she was trying to cover up her involvement. Third, they presented testimony from neighbors who reported hearing a commotion outside the house where O'Keefe was found. The prosecution argued that this corroborated their theory that an argument had taken place between Reed and O'Keefe. The prosecution's case, however, was not without its weaknesses. The defense, in their cross-examinations, exposed inconsistencies in witness testimonies and raised questions about the reliability of the physical evidence. They argued that the damage to Reed's car could have been caused by something else, and that the prosecution's timeline was flawed. The defense maintained that the prosecution was cherry-picking evidence to fit their narrative, ignoring alternative explanations. As the trial progressed, the concept of reasonable doubt became the focal point of the courtroom debates. The defense skillfully highlighted the gaps in the prosecution's evidence, urging the jury to consider the possibility of innocence. They pointed out that no direct evidence conclusively linked Karen Reed to the act of murder. Furthermore, they argued that the state had failed to eliminate other plausible scenarios that could explain John O'Keefe's tragic death. The defense's argument resonated with the jury, planting seeds of doubt. The atmosphere in the courtroom grew increasingly tense as closing arguments approached. Both sides knew that the verdict would hinge on whether the jury believed beyond a reasonable doubt that Karen Reed was guilty as charged. The defense reiterated their stance. Without concrete proof, convicting Karen would be a miscarriage of justice. The prosecution, on the other hand, maintained their confidence in the evidence presented, asserting that it was sufficient to prove guilt. As the final arguments were made, the jury retreated to deliberate, leaving those in the courtroom to await a decision that would not only determine Karen Reed's fate, but also reflect on the justice system's ability to discern truth amidst a complex web of uncertainties.